Mr. T. Ramaswamy, former Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, Dr. Umesh Khanna, my good friend and part of the SAPIENS Foundation in Mumbai and the chairman of the Mumbai Kidney Foundation, actor Madhu Balaji, dignitaries and friends. I am very happy to see so many people today for the World Kidney Day celebration. I first apologize for my voice because I have been unwell for the last 2 days. But anyhow, so we started as a small organization in 1997 with the aim to help patients with kidney disease by subsidizing dialysis and kidney transplantation. From there, we have grown into an organization which is concerned with preventive health care through the country. We started first with screening of kidney diseases in and around Chennai, and from there we have embarked into a salt reduction program in the country. We were fortunate to have this association with Professor Tanabe and Professor Toma of the Tokyo Women's Medical College. Japanese people are the world leaders in prevention of kidney disease. There was a disease called IgA nephropathy. There is, rather, a disease called IgA nephropathy which is responsible for kidney disease in a large population. So Japan was full of it, and they had one of the largest dialysis patients in the world. So they embarked on a program where every year, every school student was checked in the urine examination for RBCs, that is a blood leak, and protein leak. With that, they detected the kidney disease early, and they could act on it and prevent from people landing up on dialysis. Unfortunately, now India has more patients with IgA nephropathy landing up on dialysis than Japan. The other program they had was salt reduction. 25 years back, imagine 25 years back, the average salt consumption in North Japan was 18 grams a day. From there, they had a government program and they brought it down to 50% less, to 9 grams, and the incidence of strokes and heart attacks dropped dramatically. This is in spite of the smoking that the Japanese people continued. So salt reduction had such a great effect, and Japan has a very strong program for it. So we were fortunate to have the Japanese colleagues associating with us from 2002. Of course, an important website we launched in 2009, and sugarbp.org, which still has a very high frequent visitors from Sri Lanka and Malaysia. The website is in English, Tamil and Hindi. The maximum hits are in Tamil, and basically they are from Sri Lanka and Malaysia. A number of countries, these countries, people log into it, and these are simple tips because it gives about both diabetes and blood pressure control and how it affects the kidney and what measures you can take. Of course, this is an orphan disease, cystinosis. You might have heard of it before. So it's a rare disease where there are only about 2,000 children in the world. There are 10 foundations other than India in the world who sponsor the treatment or help these patients with these children. It's called an orphan disease because the number of children affected by this disease is so low. In India, we started this foundation in 2012, and we started with 6 children registering with us. Now we have 45 people registered with us. We are the 11th foundation in the world, and our publication has been published in the international journal, the Registry's report. We help these children to identify at an early stage, procure medications from abroad, and try to help them. The government has taken its initiative, but unfortunately, there are several such orphan diseases, and the treatment of orphan disease is very expensive. The cost per child is at least about 5 lakhs a year, so which is very difficult, and the government has not been able to sponsor. Of course, our flagship program that we started in 2010. We started with the salt reduction. Our mentor is Professor McGregor from the WASH, World Action on Salt and Health in UK, where he started in 2005. In UK, he showed that by reducing salt progressively, you can reduce heart attacks and strokes. And they did it in a very smart way. The main consumption of people, British people, is bread. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, all 3 meals they consume bread. So the salt content of bread is very high. People are not aware. And just a lunch and dinner lunch itself would suffice your salt intake per day. So they were consuming so much of salt. He brought down the salt intake in the bread progressively every year by 5 to 10%. People would not realize the change in the taste, and still they continued, and with that they could bring down the incidence of strokes and heart attacks. So we started the program in 2010 with salt walkathons, posters, and through the country. And this is our latest venture, the LOSALTER group. This is what today's program is. Our chief guest would launch the LOSALTER group and the LOSALTER website. This is a group which we have formed to create awareness about salt and health, why salt is required, why too much salt can produce what problems. And of course, I am very happy today to tell you that we have got a grant from the Resolve to Save Lives, which is an international NGO which collaborates with the WHO for this LOSALTER program, where we have been asked to train 300 physicians through the country. And these physicians will be educated first about salt and health, and they will be given toolkits so that they can propagate. We are going to start off with the kickstart today with the website. We are going to have the first physical meeting with Madras IIT, possibly in May, when we have the World Salt Week and the World Hypertension Week. And of course, subsequent meetings both at Mumbai, where Dr. Umesh Khanna would play a very key role, and Dr. Vijay Kair in Delhi, the third meeting. So the plan is over a period of next 1 year to educate at least 300 physicians about the importance of salt and health. Now coming to today's program, what is this World Kidney Day? Now the World Kidney Day was started in the year 2006 by the International Society of Nephrology and the International Federation of Kidney Foundations of 41 countries. The idea was to create an awareness about kidney disease, its prevention, and how to treat it in a correct way. Why is it so important? Why is it important to realize about kidney disease? You will be surprised that 10% of the adult population, if you do a simple test of serum creatinine and urine protein, you will identify that about 10% of the adult population have impairment of kidney function. Imagine, such a large population is going to have kidney dysfunction. And even if a small percentage of this lands up on dialysis, it is going to be an enormous burden. This is what the Western countries are facing now, and they are worried. Patients on dialysis, enormous expense. You will be surprised. The average expense now in India itself per month for a dialysis patient is about 30 to 35,000. And if you take a lifetime expense, diagnosis, dialysis, kidney transplant, etc., it will come to about 35 lakhs. And you will be shocked. I have sent some of my VIPs abroad. In the US, at Mayo Hospital, the cost of dialysis is 1 lakh per dialysis. So it can be phenomenal, the cost of dialysis. So every country in the world is scared, and people live long on dialysis. It can be a drain on the health budget. Other priority, other nutrition, infections, take a backbench. So they are all concerned with how do you prevent? Is it possible to prevent? First, we should know whether it is possible to diagnose early. Yes, it is possible. So if you identify urine protein leak, see, normally protein should not find its way in the urine. Protein is present, it's a large molecular weight substance, it is present in the blood. So it doesn't escape in the urine. If it escapes in the urine, there is, in simple terms, a hole in the kidney. So the protein leaks in the urine, you know the kidney is damaged. That is the earliest manifestation. In 85% of the disease, protein leak is the first manifestation, not the blood reports. Blood report also, if you have a proper laboratory, if you do a serum creatinine, nowadays you can estimate by a formula what is the kidney function. So that will tell you what is the approximate kidney function. Unfortunately, which we have been fighting in our foundation, that these tests are not standardized in this country. If a laboratory, each laboratory gives a different test, and the patients get worried that they are being taken for a ride. Maybe the doctor is referring to another laboratory for some other reason. It's not so. The standardization of laboratories are poor. So you find that the serum creatinine, which is the most important test, has different values. I do in one lab, it says 0.6. The estimated kidney function is 90. Supposing it gives 0.8, the estimated kidney function is 70. Where is 70? Where is 90? Somebody who is 90% of the kidney function is very happy. Somebody with 70 is down. So it's like that. So small variations in an important test can produce. So how can you diagnose? So the diagnosis is by simple test. And once you diagnose, what can you do? Yes, it's possible. You can, of course, identify why the kidney is getting affected. Treat that. Maybe he's taking a medication which is damaging kidney. Maybe he's taking a herbal medicine. Maybe he's taking some tonic. Whatever it is. He is leading an unhealthy lifestyle. Or he has some allergic disease in the kidney, like IgA nephropathy. Do a biopsy, find out the disease and treat it. Or his weight, he has got overweight. Whatever reason. So you can take some action and prevent these people from landing up into dialysis, at least a good number. So this is with this intention, the World Kidney Day was started, and every year you have a different theme. And of course today's theme I am not going to elaborate. Umesh Khanna's fort, he is going to talk on today's theme. But I'll just recall some of the themes. See, the important themes have been amazing kidneys. You should know the functioning of the kidney. How do you diagnose kidney disease? What happens with age to kidney function? What happens with gain in weight to the kidney function? What is the connection of kidney health in women? What about kidney health in children? All the themes are running out. Actually, now the present themes are getting more and more difficult because the simple ones have already been taken. It started in 2006. You are amazing kidneys. I'll always recall my oldest presentation. This slide I prepared in 1997 when we started the trust first. So this still holds good. What are kidneys? Kidneys are two bean-shaped organs which are the size of a fist located at the back. I start with that. So each weighs about 150 grams. Each contains a microprocessor unit called nephron. So each contains about 1 million nephrons. So each kidney filters about 25% of the heart's output. That is 1.5 liters, 1.25 liters per minute of blood is reaching the kidney to be filtered. So that is 180 liters is filtered. What comes out as urine is only about 1.5 liters. So 178.5 is reabsorbed in the nephrons or the microprocessor unit. So even if the filtration drops to 90%, still you can pass 1.5 liters. It's a very important point to understand that in kidney disease often the urine output does not change. So the patient says, I am passing normal urine. Why do you say that I have a kidney disease? Even 90% of the kidney can be damaged and still you can pass normal urine because that is the amount of filtration that is taking place in the kidney. And of course we are called nephrologists because we treat the nephrons. You have the urologists who treat the urinary tract. So from the kidneys the two tubes come down, the ureter. They take the urine to the bladder, which is a reservoir. So once the bladder gets distended to a particular amount, for example, after another couple of hours, you would go to the rush to the toilet because you have reached 300 ml. There is a sensation that goes to the brain, so you have the urge to pass urine. So you give a command from the brain to open the bladder, you can pass urine. So that's how these are the urinary tract. So most important function, if you look at the function also, it is very interesting. What is the function of the kidney? I am sure all of you would come out and tell me immediately to get rid of the waste products from the body, right? But more important than that, it is maintaining the internal environment of the body. So the internal environment is the pH, the electrolyte composition. Unless they are maintained, see everybody eats different food. I eat something, Kannan eats something, somebody eats, Sundaram eats something else. You have meat eaters. People eat different, but you do the blood test, it's all similar. Who is responsible? The kidneys are responsible. So it is maintaining the milieu interior or the internal environment. So if the kidney function is disturbed, the internal environment is disturbed. The effect is seen in other organs. So somebody comes to me with vomiting, not able to eat. He goes to the gastroenterologist. Molina, she does an endoscopy and says your gastroscopy is normal. But then they haven't done, somebody does a blood test and says, oh, your kidney function is gone. So the kidney manifestation of the kidney disease is in the rest of the body because the internal environment is disturbed. So the urine output alone will not tell you whether a person has kidney disease or not. So this was one of the earliest presentations I made several years back. The World Kidney Day, as I said, there are several themes. One of the interesting themes is because I always have, many of my friends are very elderly. Mr. Sundaram would agree with me. So a lot of them are elderly friends I have. So everybody is concerned. With age, what precaution should I take for the kidney function? What happens to the kidneys? With age, the kidneys also age. So the filtration rate drops. The ability to remove salt from the body is less. The potassium requirement is more. The water requirement is more. So elderly people they cannot tolerate medications. Majority of the medicines that you take pass through the kidneys. So you require a dosage modification once you age. So there are messages for that day, like kidneys do age, drug doses to be adjusted, salt to be reduced, water intake to be increased, sufficient potassium intake, etc. These are all, of course, for theme. Again, World Kidney Day on obesity. Obesity is again growing in India. And what people don't realize is it's not the absolute weight. What we are concerned is the truncal obesity. Very often the obesity is diagnosed by weight and the BMI, body mass index, which is the ratio to the height. So according to the height and weight, you calculate the BMI and say if somebody is more than 25 BMI, he is obese or overweight. Once he crosses 30, it is a obesity. But more important than that, what Indians are worried is this. Of course, where is the previous slide? Where is that? No. Okay, this slide I'll go back. Why is it not moving? Yes. We are worried of the Indian obesity, where there is a truncal obesity. The person is thin in the hands, thin in the limbs, but has a big paunch. This is our carbohydrate intake, lack of exercise, which fortunately people are more aware now. They are exercising better than I see. A lot of people walking everywhere, so it's much better. But truncal obesity is a big concern. A very simple test, waist-hip ratio. Take a tape, measure your waist and hip. You know whether you are obese or not. This test tells you more about heart attacks and strokes and kidney disease rather than doing complicated CT scans. The waist-hip ratio. A very important test, often forgotten. Yeah, before that, yes. Yeah, this is again tells you animals in the wild. We are talking obesity. What happens to the human food, which is fair? If the animals start eating the human food, this is an exaggeration. You will see the cat, the dog and the cow on the other side, which they are domesticated. Whereas in the wild, they are very thin. So the natural food is different from the human food, which is highly processed. I am just briefly covering a disease, which is the commonest disease in the world, the commonest killer in the world. I'm sure. Anybody? The commonest disease and commonest killer in the world? Hypertension. So about 35% of the adult population suffer from hypertension. Maybe more. In the US, the data is very alarming. They have found now, with slightly lowering the normalcy by 10 millimeters, 50% of the population have hypertension. So it is very high, hypertension. And its complications, WHO, which used to give a figure of 8.5 million dying every year due to hypertension complication, has jacked it up to 10.5 million this year. It says every year 10.5 million die due to hypertension and its related complications. Whom should you go if you have hypertension? All of you, I'm sure, the first thing you go is to a cardiologist. Any layman you ask, you tell him, who do you go for a blood pressure? I go to the cardiologist. Even if you go into the medical textbook, the chapter of hypertension is under cardiology. It is not in nephrology. But what has the heart got to do with hypertension? Heart only suffers because of hypertension. Heart doesn't produce hypertension. Who produces hypertension? Kidneys. So, kidneys are responsible. The salt that you consume is ruined by the kidneys. There is a hormone produced by the kidney called renin. Both of them are responsible for hypertension. So kidneys are more connected to hypertension than heart. But unfortunately, of course, one way it is good in the sense the number of nephrologists in the country are only 2,500. If a hypertension people start going to nephrologists, it's not possible. So I think cardiologists can still take it. But more important, let us go down. It should go down to physician. It should go down to patients. Hypertension should be handled by patients themselves. It's not difficult. I'll cover that. So physicians. So it is not necessary that you require a specialist. Specialist is required only in a small percentage where it is difficult to control blood pressure or there are complications. How do you measure the blood pressure? First of all, everybody, which is the best way? My patients still come and tell me, sir, at home my blood pressure is, the machine is not good. It is showing very high, up and down. Your blood pressure, you measure it. So the clinic blood pressure is the worst one. When doctor measures, it is the wrong blood pressure. You should know that. Doctor measuring blood pressure, there are other effects. So the clinic, the environment, doctors is very busy. He has a short time. He doesn't have time to make you relaxed. He is just measuring the blood pressure. So that's the wrong blood pressure. What is more important is the home monitoring of blood pressure. I'm sure I have told people who know me, I recommend all of them to buy the electronic blood pressure apparatus. For that matter of fact, some of the weddings I go, I give that present. But what is the best way? The gold standard is 24 hours blood pressure. If I tie a BP cuff to you and send you home, at different points of the time, you will record your blood pressures. You're sleeping, you're walking, you're fighting with your wife, you're happy with your wife. All the blood pressures are recorded. So we know what is the number of readings which are abnormal. Up to 25% of the readings can be abnormal. It's not that, see, nobody has, if you'll be shocked, nobody will have a flat line on blood pressures, systolic and diastolic. It will be up and down. If you see a graph, it will be up and down. That is part of nature. You cannot have a blood pressure which, what we are worried is sustained blood pressure. When the blood pressure sustains for long, then there is, so 24 hours blood pressure. So different types of blood pressure you can identify once you have a 24 hours blood pressure monitoring. White coat hypertension, that's what I said. So you go to the doctor's office, your blood pressure shoots up. I have some patients, it shoots up. Sustained hypertension, wherever you go the blood pressure is high. Home, house, wherever it is. True normal tension, everywhere it is low. Masked hypertension, this is very interesting. Masked hypertension is normal with the doctor, but it is high at home. This is a group which requires greater attention. You know, how we pick it up, it's very interesting how we pick it up. See, you can't, when we do what is called an echocardiogram, you will find that the left ventricle, which is pumping against the pressure, becomes thick. So left ventricular hypertrophy. If I see a left ventricular hypertrophy and a person's blood pressure is normal, I know his blood pressure is high at home. So this is called masked hypertension. Of course, there is another classification, primary. Majority of the blood pressure are without any cause. They are called primary. Secondary hypertensions are due to some rare diseases like endocrine, kidney disease, etc. That is a different one. So that is, you find it out by investigations. Primary ones don't require great investigations. Of course, treatment. As I said, most important, many of the things patient can do themselves. Lifestyle intervention is at your hand. You don't require the doctor. That is the first thing. Not medication. Medication is second. Not. First is lifestyle. Control your weight, eat a balanced diet, do regular exercise. I was surprised. That day I heard the last Man Ki Baat of Modi. He says, you should do exercise like brushing your teeth in the morning. So it is part of your this thing. You have to exercise every day. I think that it's a must. Half an hour a day. I'm sure everybody has that time. Or you have to create. If you don't have time, your time management is wrong. So there are different group of drugs. This is not, I'm not going into that. That has nothing to do. Stress and BP. Again, there are sufficient studies that have shown that stress is not responsible for. Anywhere I go and ask what is the cause of blood pressure, first thing people come out and say stress. It's not stress. Stress at the point, hormone will go up, your BP goes up, but it comes down. So sustained blood pressure is not due to stress. There are several studies which have been undertaken. What puts up blood pressure? Most important is salt. So if you take more salt, the blood volume goes up, the blood pressure goes up. So there are two types of people. One is called salt sensitive, one are called salt resistant. That's why somebody says, see sir, I eat the same salt, my wife eats the same salt. She doesn't have blood pressure, I have blood pressure. Why is it? So you can be salt sensitive or salt resistant. That is, salt resistant means if you take salt, the blood vessels produce what is called nitrous oxide. So because of that, the blood vessel dilates and the blood pressure doesn't go up. Whereas in salt sensitive, if you take salt, the blood vessel starts constricting and the BP goes up. So salt sensitive or salt resistant hypertension. But then you have to realize what is salt resistant will become salt sensitive after some time. So which you cannot go on monitoring. So the best policy is to cut down salt. And not only that, even if the blood pressure doesn't go up, salt can affect the lining of blood vessels, what are called endothelial cells. So it can lead to increased heart attacks and strokes. Potassium. Potassium has the opposite effect of sodium. So it produces drop in blood pressure. Then your next question will be, so why don't I take potassium as a medication? So you cannot take. See, if you take potassium, you will have problems. You cannot monitor the levels. And second thing, what many people don't understand is, it is not just potassium. It is the antioxidants and the fiber content which goes with the fruits and vegetables. See, the potassium source for us in the food is fruits and vegetables. That's why it is recommended for you to take fruits and vegetables. Antioxidants and fiber along with it. Fiber makes the potassium absorption slow. I had a patient long back in 1983. So the patient's potassium, what kills a patient with kidney disease is potassium. So this person, somebody didn't tell him what should be avoided. So she had a glass of orange juice. She was connected to the monitor. And you could see on the monitor the change of potassium and her heart stopped. So because she took an orange juice, if she had taken an orange, probably she would have escaped because it has fiber. It doesn't allow the potassium to go up fast. Whereas if you take it as a juice, the absorption is very rapid. Weight. Ideal body weight is always a must. I'm not going into the details of it. The commonest cause of overweight is overeating. But people don't agree for it. So I call it black calories. It's like the income tax. You have one income which is normal, the other income is more. So people don't tell the concealed income. This is a problem. It has to change. You have to face what you're eating and correct it. So I make them have a logbook. Measure everything that you eat. So a follower says, I eat only 2 chapatis. But he has had one Mysore pak which he has forgotten the list. So it is important to do that. So this is the typical example. The South American native man, Aborigine man, he has never exposed to salt. His blood pressure is only 90/60. He has maximum stress in life. He can be hunted by animals. He is always worried that his wife can be taken by somebody else. So he is always under stress. But still he has no exposure to salt. So his blood pressure is only 90/60. The same thing happens to the apes. The apes in the wild have a blood pressure of 90/60. Put in the New York Zoo, given the human food, blood pressure is 130/90. So don't think 130/90 is your normal blood pressure. Generations back, the blood pressure was lower. So I'm not going into the details of salt. This is a program, as I said, it was a preservative. Started 8,000 years back. Romans gave it as a salary, so that's why it's called salt. Very, very important substance in those days because it was a preservative. So the recommendation, all these things are there in our website today, which will be launched shortly. I think I'm probably crossing my time. I'll skip some of these slides and go to it later. But the WHO recommends that you should take only 1 spoon of salt from all sources. This is very important. Salt added during cooking, salt present in natural food, and salt present in preserved food. Important to remember that. Very few studies, cultural practices are different. Indians eat more pickles and papads and other snacks which contain high salt. The best way to make out how much salt you are taking is not your logbook, which as I said can be cheated. Get your 24 hours urine measured for sodium. See, in the body, in a steady state, all the sodium that you take is removed only by the kidneys. So if I collect the 24 hours, I know how much salt you have taken in the last 24 hours. So that's the best test to know how much salt you are taking. People will be surprised, you won't know otherwise. You always think that you are taking less. Sources of salt, as I said, yes. Myth regarding salt, salt is a taste. Actually, salt is a dominant taste, salt and sugar. If you take more, it will kill other taste sensations and it will require more. It's like addiction. So if you eat less salt, your taste buds will recover in 2 weeks and you will be able to appreciate better. And children require less salt actually. More salt is required in hot weather is also not right. Once you are acclimatized, sweat contains very less salt. If you find that your skin is salty, Dr. McGregor used to say, that means you are taking more salt. There are 5 ways. Of course, they're all put in our website. I think today after the launch, you can log into the website. You can become members of the LOSALTER group. We have membership both for lay people and for doctors, and all the information is displayed in that. Reducing salt. In UK, they showed that they could reduce strokes and heart disease. Japan, as I told you again. There are other damaging effects. People know only of blood pressure, but there are other damaging effects. Cancer, stroke, heart failure, kidney stones, weakness of bones or osteoporosis. Very interesting. If you take more salt, salt goes in the urine, it drags the calcium with it. So the bones become weak if you take more salt. Who is responsible? I think we are trying this part also. Public. Of course, government and food industry. We are also writing to them and are in touch with them. Very important is the signal labeling. Like in UK, you should have a signal labeling. How will people know how much salt to consume? Put a label in the packed food. Red, yellow and green. Green tells you, allows you to eat. Yellow, at your discretion. Red, at your danger. So otherwise, measuring and all, people won't remember figures. Just put the signal labeling. This is a slide I always put. Today especially I am putting it because Professor Krishna Kumar from IIT is here with us. Krishna Kumar. He is the brain behind the Medical Sciences Department in IIT Madras, which has recently started. I think you should look at this. He has bright students who have joined this year. 36 of them, 40 of them, 30 of them, and I'm sure all the kidney patients are eagerly awaiting what are the things that are going to help. And every question nowadays people want to know is, what is AI going to do for us? How is it going to be better than the doctor? So I hope it is going to be better than the doctor, or at least doctors use it judiciously to help their patients. So that's that. And artificial intelligence, I think especially in kidney tumors and kidney transplantation, where it guides the treatment modality that has to be given based on the large data it can capture. Artificial kidney, where's the picture, Kannan? It's gone? Yeah, this is an artificial kidney which again we did start a few years back with Krishna Kumar, but still we have not made a great progress in the project. They could have again an implantable kidney which could be there, wearable kidneys, wearable dialyzers. These are all wearable dialyzers where patients can walk with the dialyzers. All are in research stage. They are really not practically come at a patient regular treatment modality. Same thing. Every patient used to ask in between. Now it's come down. Stem cells. Sir, will kidneys grow out of stem cells? This is an eager question made by them, because you have to, how do you handle this kidney failure? Somebody on dialysis. The only answer is a kidney transplantation. How do they get it done? So then this is a common question. What about stem cells? Stem cells have been used and there is some progress made. Xenotransplantation. This is again, you take a kidney from an animal. We were always expecting that there will be a stage when you will say, I'll choose my animal. I want this animal, I want this animal. Because you make these are special genetically modified animals. They don't have any HLA tissue antigens and can be used. Heart, they tried the heart transplant, the person died after about 6 weeks after the heart artificial from the pig heart which was used. In kidney, it's still not very successful. Professor Tanabe, last time I did mention this, very important progress which we are eagerly awaiting, the apoptosis inhibitor molecule, AIM. This AIM, what he calls, is an internal dialysis. So this will remove the waste products by giving it as a medical form. And instead of having a dialysis. This interest is enormous. The trial is going on in Japan. The phase 1, phase 2 trials, I just corresponded to him recently, and he said that the phase 1 and phase 2 trials are coming at this year end, and they expect in 6 years the commercial production of this substance. Of course, I always end normally with my lecture with a quiz. I'm sure now people are educated after attending my lecture. Which is the animal which has the highest blood pressure? I'm sure now you should know. Anybody? Giraffe. Giraffe has the tallest neck, so it has to pump blood from the heart to the head. It has the highest blood pressure, 240 by 140. It's very interesting to know that when it grazes, it spreads its leg and puts its head down. It's a mechanism where the blood is drained into a chamber and the blood pressure drops. Otherwise, it will get a brain hemorrhage. Of course, on a positive note, is metformin a cure for all diseases? This is a very old medication used in diabetes called metformin. The drug is useful in diabetes, the drug is useful in obesity, drug is useful in cardiovascular disease, drug is useful in cancer prevention. So, is it a cure for all diseases? This is a recent article that I saw. Of course, it cannot be used in patients with advanced kidney disease. Thank you.